Hello there, Commonwealth from here. I'm back and destroy the hacker like Link did with the ancient arrows against Guardians. But that was Breath of the Wild. Now we have Tears of the Kingdom reviews. And we're giving you a spoiler-free walkthrough before we end up talking about the Zelda Team's own thoughts about Tears of the Kingdom's development and the final product towards the end. All spoiler-free and free of footage from these reviews, as those contain spoilers. By the way, our Zelda launch giveaway is live and the link is in the pinned comment as we're so close to 330,000 subscribers. So be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell, and let's just address the elephant in the room before we look at what is behind it. 96 out of 100, which could change to 97. But this is review day, we have to remember that. And the current score as of the recording of this video is below Breath of the Wild's final Metascore by 1. But let's remember that Breath started with 98 and then dropped to 97. And though we're currently at 96, I don't think we'll fall to 95. Rather go up to 97 as it was there earlier today. But only time will tell. It will either be 97 or 96 for Tears of the Kingdom. Alright, now the key words of the reviewers themselves, starting with the one that screwed up the preview rules and which review you shouldn't watch because of it. IGN, 10 out of 10. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is an unfathomable follow-up, expanding a world that already felt full beyond expectation and raising the bar ever higher into the clouds. GameSpot, 10 out of 10. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is a canvas for your own creativity, a book to write your own stories, a world to create your own legends. It gives you back as much as you put into it, and beckons you to soar, burrow, engineer, solve, adventure, and explore. Nintendo Life, 10 out of 10. It is impossible to talk about everything that makes The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom so incredible, and making many of those discoveries yourself is a part of the magic. It's also impossible to overstate just how much there's to do in Hyrule this time around. It is a glorious, triumphant sequel to one of the best video games of all time. Absolutely unfiltered bliss to lose yourself in for hundreds of hours. We can't wait to see what the world will do with this game. But now to contrast the 10s, Eurogamer, 4 out of 5 stars. Tears of the Kingdom is a direct sequel. For all its changes, and Zelda tends not to go in for those, it's used to wipe the slate clean each time, casting the last game's baggage aside like so much surplus equipment and setting out for the horizon. I would like the next Zelda to do that again. With that said, Tears of the Kingdom is an astonishing, quite literally top-to-bottom sequel, adding complexity and splendor to the Breath of the Wild formula without sacrificing its enchantment. Video Game Chronicles, 10 out of 10. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom reinterprets Breath of the Wild for the better. Instead of removing all the aches and pains of that game, it completes the circle by adding gameplay-based solutions to annoyances and encourages you to let your imagination run free. Easily one of the very best games on the Nintendo Switch. Game Reactor Denmark and Sweden, so we're going outside of the English-speaking territories, 9 out of 10. A true masterpiece of a game that with its vertical ambition pushes the Switch to the limit, and sadly with it the performance takes a hit. On top of that, the surface is a little too similar to Breath of the Wild's. More changes could have been applied here and there. In return, most other Game Reactor divisions, including my own, so Norway, gives the game a 10 out of 10. And we also have to remember that reviewers didn't have access to the launch update with the super resolution FSR fix and more. Game Informer, 98 out of 100. I didn't get the same goosebumps exploring Hyrule as I did in the past, but I did experience new emotions both on a granular level from solving individual puzzles and a larger scale by going back to one of my favorite video game locations. They say you can never go home again, but I adored returning to Hyrule with all new tools. Now to a region where Zelda isn't that big, namely Poland. For the review of greonline.pl, 95 out of 100. If any of you do not share my admiration for the previous part, you will not find anything interesting in Tears of the Kingdom either. Here in Poland, the Legend of Zelda series is either loved or people are completely indifferent to it. As a huge fan of it, I can wholeheartedly recommend Tears of the Kingdom to anyone who is looking for an interesting, unconventional game, who is not afraid to implement even the strangest ideas and loves to solve complex puzzles. Back to one more 10 out of 10, which is from SkillUp. As his review is full of praise, but also some spoilers. But when it comes to small nitpicks, it is tied to, once again, the Switch performance, some criticism of Breath of the Wild not being recitified, and finally, a pretty obvious one, too many Korok seeds. So, with all these reviews, which ones are dragging down the Metacritic score from what could have been a 98 or even Ocarina's legendary 99? Outside of Eurogamer's 8 out of 10, we have VCCF Tech 9 out of 10. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom sticks closely to the blueprint established by The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, but it is a richer, more rewarding game. Even so, the familiarity of this Hyrule and a handful of frustrating sections keep Tears of the Kingdom from feeling quite as surprising and magical as its predecessor. But make no mistake, the wait has been worth it. While it probably behooves Nintendo to carve out an entirely new legend next, Link's latest should fill most fans' heart meters nicely in the meantime. GamePro Germany, 93 out of 100. Gigantic open-world adventure packed with tasks and secrets, but lacking the novel magic of its predecessor. But where's that 7 and 6 out of 10s? Well, there's one major one, namely Gfinity's 6 out of 10. And they argued that, if you have yet to step foot into the open world of Hyrule, Tears of the Kingdom is the best way to experience it, with just enough new ground to keep things interesting. But if you didn't gel with the 2017 release and were ready for something new, the story alone might not be worth the second attempt. So with all of this in mind, what is my take of all these reviews, and especially the ones that aren't 10 out of 10, dragging the Metascore down to 96 and at best 97 if we get some more 10 out of 10s later down the line? It is simple, it was expected. Not everyone will praise the reused surface or structure of the game, especially some older Zelda fans, for who it still hurts that the formula was so drastically changed with Breath, and though Tears appears to restore some of what was lost, for some of the traditionalists this isn't enough. Personally, I don't want to cover performance right now, as we know that an update is in place to address many of the technical issues at launch, but we cannot ignore the fact that we have seen repeatedly in the reviews that several might have wished to have more new surface to explore. But with that said, these review scores don't matter, as it is what we feel and do when we play, and then think over and over that will decide how we see the 20th Zelda game. I want to congratulate to every one of you who have avoided the leak and spoilers on the release, as May 12th is our day of celebration. Most of all, the Zelda teams, headed by producer Eiji Aonuma and Hidemaro Fujibayashi. They, along with the remaining leaders of Tears of the Kingdom, have published an extensive take on why they made this sequel, and what they struggle to keep, and what to change and add into. Be warned though, as the full thing on the Zelda and Nintendo website contains some spoilers, so here's a very rough summary which is completely spoiler-free. Series producer Eiji Aonuma wanted to go to the sky and dig on the ground already with Breath of the Wild, but couldn't because of how much time went into working on the physics and chemistry engine. So for him, this sequel was a realization of his original wish. Director Hidemaro Fujibayashi has been clear in his vision since the beginning to keep as much of the world as possible, as he wanted a sequel that is familiar, and where the main focus was placed on gameplay innovation and story, instead of battling technical issues of a monster of a map again for years. Hence why the themes of duality and combinations, which is symbolized by the main theme of the game, hands and holding hands. The biggest difference from Breath of the Wild, namely Link's new arm powers, all granting a sandbox and pool for imagination like no other across 3 layers. The aim of the Zelda team this time was to break the conventions of a Zelda sequel by placing it in the same Hyrule, but with different things to discover both above, below and within the surface itself, along with things to do, and that is how Ultra Hand came to be. Sticking things together and building all sorts of paths and modes of transport as the imagination and materials at disposal will allow. Same with Fuse and Ascend and Recall to perfect the vertical formula. Key to this outside of the powers are the magical Zonai items, well, at least as the Zelda team coined it, and the battery, which is fittingly also green, just like the magic meter in past traditional Zelda titles. On the same review day, the Zelda team detailed that the starting idea of this game was the supernatural power of an unknown civilization. But at the end of the day, all of these powers and tools are provided by the team in Kyoto to grant the player unprecedented freedom, both in exploration and experimentation of the vertical maps. This way, static elements from Breath of the Wild became movable and interactive in Tears of the Kingdom. So to end this video, here are the words of producer Eiji Aonuma himself. Quote, "I've played this game from start to finish about 20 times, and I can say that it's more fun with detours, even more so than in the previous game. When testing the game, I sometimes needed to rush ahead to clear the story, but later on, as I started to go off on side paths, I realized it's a whole different game." Some discoveries made me think, wow, you can even do this at this point in the game? Even when sticking things together, there's so many different combinations that even I don't know all of them. It may take some time, but as you take detours and tread whatever you can at a time, I think you'll be able to enjoy the game in your own way. So don't head straight for the ending. I've cleared the game many times myself and never felt bored once. You have my word. Quote. But that is that. The game is out, and it is time for us fans and creators to show what we can do with what has been granted by the Zelda Team. Anyway, if you haven't already, then be sure to leave a like, subscribe and press the notification bell. First post-release videos soon, as we will begin a little bit slowly, to not spoil any of you. A big thanks goes to all of you who watched, and to our patreon.com/comearound patrons, and in particular our royal producer Charles Shash. You rock, and please enjoy one or both of these two awesome videos.